Because we live in a world where everybody wants to post everything. And we got people who are more interested in posting than they are in progress. One man was talking about the game Guitar Hero, the game where you can press the buttons and pretend to play the guitar. You don't have to prepare. You can just pretend. And he said everybody wants to be a rock star, but nobody wants to learn the chords. Preparation is underrated. Preparation is not very celebrated in our culture. It's because we want to post and we need instant validation. We live in the age of outrage, instant outrage, and instant validation. We learn to tweet before we learn to think. Just post everything that you think, like everybody needs to hear what you know. I'm thinking about doing a lesson because it's disturbing me and show you the difference between a journal and a Facebook page. Everything you think does not deserve an audience. Preach, Pastor Steve. Preach to the people. Some of y'all are shouting because you're hoping that your Aunt Susie in Oklahoma hears this message. She's embarrassing you and the whole family. The post. Now, I know you're wondering how I'm going to get back to 2 Kings 13. I know exactly how to get back there. See, because I prepared to preach. What would you do if I came up here to preach and instead of telling you to turn in your Bible, I asked, so, anybody got anything you want to talk about this week? Anybody? What'd you think? Old Testament, New Testament? You look at some scriptures? Anybody? See what I can find. And I wonder, why do you expect me to prepare to preach? I'm not going to be mean about it, but just a question. Are you prepared to receive? Because the last time I checked, it's often the quality of the soil that determines the harvest more than the quality of the seed. Sometimes when chunks will tell me, that was your best sermon you ever preached, I said, no, you finally just listened. I'm preaching good every week. You're just awake this week. When the king went down to see Elisha, remember he had recently been appointed to his post as king. And Elisha has not been mentioned in the scriptures for something like 45 years, but he's still on his post. There's something about staying on your post. It is the lost art of being planted. And you are never going to fulfill purpose until you commit to your post. Thinking about post in a couple of different ways. I'm thinking about how God has posted some of you in places that seem insignificant. And isn't that really the message of 2 Kings 13, 14 through 20? We were talking the other day in a little group about this passage, and one person said, I feel sorry for the king. If Elisha would have wanted him to strike the ground 5 or 6 times, he should have told him to strike it 5 or 6 times. And I think the message here is that God leaves a lot of it up to you. How far do you want to go? I don't think God makes all the decisions for your life. I think he lets you decide within certain parameters how much purpose or potential you want to fulfill. I don't think that God presides everything about our life. Do I believe that we each have a purpose? Yes. Do I believe that he's God whether or not you marry Jimmy? Yes. Do I believe that you quitting your job will cause the cosmos to collapse? Or that any presidential office could thwart or overpower the presence and the preeminence of God? No, I believe he's sovereign, but I also believe that within his sovereignty, he has left space for you and I to take responsibility. The post. post. How do you preach about the value of preparation in a post-oriented world? How do you preach to it's not really an age thing, it's not really a social media thing. I mean, I put stuff online too, just like the rest of you, but I wonder sometimes, do we want recognition before we've taken responsibility? Do we need the pat on the back? The battle is won or lost in preparation. This is true of athletes. I can tell you, any athletes in the house? Are there any professional athletes in the house? Any NASCAR drivers in the house? Y'all know NASCAR is not that simple. I mean, it is a very sophisticated sport. I only know because of Joey Brittany. If he isn't racing, I don't watch. I'm not a NASCAR fan. I cheer for 22. Comes to my church. And he told me to come out to a race, to see him race. I didn't really want to go to the NASCAR race. And after I went, I was fascinated. I got to hear his teamwork and everything. And Chunks, who I mentioned earlier, who only half listens to my sermons sometimes. I'm kidding about Chunks. But he turned to me and said something, because when I went to the race, Joey won. I'm not saying it was the favor of God because your pastor was at the racetrack. I would never say something like that. I would only imply it. But he won, and Chunks looked at me on the way home. He said, you know what's interesting about that race? He said, that race wasn't won on the track, it was won in the garage. Because he had been talking to one of your team members during the race, explaining how all week the team is 350 people, he told me, working on that car. You see one driver, and he's a good driver, and if he can't drive, they don't win. But no matter how well he can drive, it's not what happens on Sunday. I feel like preaching a little bit because I think this has something in common with spirituality. It's what happens Monday when they're trying to make the car a 1/10 of a pound lighter. Just a 1/10 of a pound lighter can make all the difference. I mean, just a little bit, just a little tweak on the motor, just a little race note on this track and this turn. And I'm making stuff up because I don't know a lot about NASCAR. But what I'm trying to say is maybe God is more interested in the garage than he is the track. God is a of preparation. He would not feed the multitudes until they sat down in the grass. Why? Provision awaits preparation. You've been asking God to send it, and he's been asking you to form it, because he can't fill what you don't form. Post, it was decided. The battle had not been fought yet, but Elisha predicted the outcome based on the king's persistence and preparation. Here's what he said. If you won't do the groundwork when it doesn't seem to make sense, if all you want is this, great marriage, happy family, 8-pack, whatever, prayer life, whatever, I don't care what it is. I'm telling you, it's about the garage. He is the God of the garage. Tweaking stuff and fixing stuff you can't see.